In this video lesson, we're going to talk about the heel-toe technique. Now, in all my years teaching lessons online, and even prior to that, a constant question that always came up was, how do I do quick doubles with my foot? Or how do I do quick triples with my foot? Or how do I go faster on the double pedal? And it literally never stops. Like, no matter how many times I even teach this technique, there's always someone asking the question or asking more questions even after I've shown it to them once. And so this video here is created to kind of outline everything, all of my experiences over the past 5 years teaching online and over pretty much the past 10 years teaching drums. And I really just want to break this down. That's why we've stripped everything down. We've taken the whole drum set away, and we're here with a single bass drum pedal and a bass drum practice pad. A bass drum practice pad is a Pearl BD10. It's just something, I think it costs around $100, and it's something you can get if you want to practice your bass drum technique and not have the loud sound of a bass drum. So first, let's talk a little bit about how I learned the heel-toe technique and where the heel-toe technique originally came from. Originally, what people have been told, and what I've been told, is that the heel-toe technique came from a tap dancing technique, which was designed as a motion created to get two strokes with one motion. So you do something once, get something twice. Simple as that, right? And so originally it came from that, and now it's been adapted to the drum set on the bass drum pedal. And so back in the day, when I was going through a realistic rock book by Carmine Appice, and this exercise came up, which I'm going to teach you guys later when I get back to the drum set. But the exercise was basically hi-hat on eighth notes, and then the bass drum on all the off 16th note triplets. So 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3. And I spent one whole week, just trying to get that exercise. And I came back, and all of a sudden, my foot just started doing this technique. And then I started giving lessons to this guy named Rick Kettner. And Rick Kettner was very, very experienced with the heel-toe technique and doing double bass up to like 240 beats per minute. And so he originally put out a video that went online. It was like 20 minutes long, and it was downloaded by thousands of people. And these are before the days of YouTube, guys. This is like when online video was just becoming popular. And so thousands of people downloaded it, thousands, like well over 12,000 within the first couple months, which back then was considered quite a bit. So then basically what we did is we put together our original Bass Drum Secrets pack. And that was basically just a DVD and a couple of books. And from there, it's kind of evolved into this, where we wanted to make an all-in-one pack that shows you guys not only the heel-toe technique, but everything to do with bass drum. And so this is Bass Drum Secrets 2.0. But in this video, I really just want to take our time and help you develop this technique, because it literally takes under 5 minutes to learn the technique, but it takes a lifetime to master. And so let's get started, and let's just learn the technique without any bass drum pedal or anything at all. So I'm going to remove this for now. Okay, so before we get into the actual technique as it's played on the pedal, I first wanted to break it down for you on the carpet. And I even want to go one step further, and I want to take off our shoes. All right? Okay, so you can do this with me. This might be good to do it with me right now. Take off your right shoe or whatever your dominant foot shoe is. All right, and now we have just there on our socks. And what I always tell people is sometimes it's actually easier to learn this technique just using socks at the beginning. Eventually, you can kind of go on to shoes. These are actually a brand new pair of shoes that I just got. They're not worn in at all, so it's not like it takes a specific type of shoe to play this technique, and we'll go more into that later. But it just seems at first it's easier to learn just with socks. Okay, so now we got our foot on the ground, just set like that. Now I want to show you the motion that the heel-toe technique is. And this is it. So that's how the technique looks when it's played at full speed. Now let's take a look at it's played in slow motion. Okay, so let's just break down exactly what is happening here. Like I'm always going to say, and I'm going to continue to always reiterate over and over again, is with the heel-toe technique, there's a starting position. And this is so important when you first learn it. I'll critique so many people. People send me their videos or they'll come for a lesson and they're like, what am I doing wrong? And I'll look at what they're doing like, yeah, you're not starting right. You're starting the technique from here. And if you try and start the technique from here without actually knowing the feeling and what actually has to happen to perform the double stroke, you won't be able to do it. You won't be able to learn it. So it's really going to hinder your learning. So what I always say is start the technique in the toe position. So we'll call it the toe position. And this is with the heel in the air. Okay? And then what happens is you basically come up, you drop down, and then come back up. So that's the motion. Rocking motion. It's not this. Okay, so many people will try and do this and they think, why is it not working? Why is it not working? Well, you have to do the rocking motion. Now another thing I want to talk about is what you're hearing. You're hearing two strokes. You're hearing one when my heel hits, and you're hearing another when my toe goes back to the starting position. Now, when we get to the pedal later, you're going to see that it's actually more of a toe-toe stroke when you slow down and look at the motion. When I hit my heel, I actually will hit the heel on the footboard and not actually on the pedal. The first heel hit won't actually create any stroke, but it is the start of the motion and it is necessary to perform the heel-toe technique, double stroke. And then when I come up, there's my first double, and when I finish, there's my second double. And it works like that. Like, I know it's hard to see now, but I really wanted to break it down without the pedal. So if you didn't necessarily have a pedal right now, or if you're sitting on the bus later, if you're watching a movie or whatever, you could literally just sit there and practice this technique. Because it's all about your muscles memorizing this motion. All right, now let's bring the bass drum pedal back in, and I'm going to show you how it looks on the pedal. All right, so now we're back here with the pedal, and I want to show you how the heel-toe technique looks when played on the pedal. So here we go. Okay, so you're going to notice some differences, and differences in the feeling, obviously, because we're not on a completely flat carpet. Now the pedal is slightly angled, as you can see here. So now when your foot sits up, it's just different. That's why when first starting, because we're going from the carpet, let's flatten that out. And let's just leave the beater on the drum head. So the beater's on the drum head, my foot is in the starting position. Here I do it slowly. I come down, my heel hits, I start coming back up. There's the first stroke. My heel is still coming up. There's the second stroke, back in the starting position. I'm doing it as slow as I possibly can. You'll never ever actually play it that slow. That's actually ridiculous. But that's how it actually looks. Let me do it again for you guys. All right, now I'm going to play it at normal speed for you, and then we can slow it down for you in video and show you exactly how it sounds and looks, super slow motion. So if you have the basic motion down, what I recommend you do is basically just sit down at a bass drum practice pad or at your bass drum and sit there and do exactly what I was just doing. Isolate it. Let's work on these muscles alone. Let's not worry about our hands or anything else. Get away from the big drum kit because that's only going to distract you. And basically, don't worry about the time or anything, but just play the notes like that. Just try and go for a quick double. And sometimes you'll probably do a quick single, and sometimes you might do a triple and stuff like that, but don't worry about it. Just let's work on memorizing the motion of the heel-toe technique. Here we go. Okay, now that you've learned the heel-toe technique and you can play a quick double, what I want you to work on is playing it continuously. So just doing like kind of a gallop. Pick a tempo you're comfortable with. No need to use a metronome right now. If just go really slow if that's the way it's working for you. Or with some people, I know it's easier for them to learn this technique at a little bit faster speed just because of the motion with the foot, and then they actually will learn how to control it and bring the tempo down later, there's nothing wrong with that when we're first learning this. As long as you learn it at a variety of tempos, I think that's what's most important. So let's just work on it and let's try and get that gallop going. Okay, so you'll notice when I'm doing that gallop, I don't actually come up and sit there in the starting position every time. But when it's slowed down, you'll see that every time I do the double, I end up back here. And it's just for a split second when you have to do it over and over again. But some of the exercises we're going to be going over later on the kit, they use that. They use like the 16th note triplet stuff where you have to do a few in a row, or the 32nd notes between the bass drums where your feet are constantly doing this rocking thing. So it's very important that you learn to do it continuously like that. The next thing we're going to do is I'm going to put on my shoe and I'm going to talk about something that I have heard so much stuff about. It's like a massive myth that has flown across the internet, that everyone is thinking that it takes a certain specific thing to do this technique, but it doesn't, okay? I want to kind of shatter that myth for you guys right now. So let me put my shoe back on and I'll be back with you in a second. So now I want to talk about a couple of misconceptions about the heel-toe technique. The first one is foot size and footwear. I am a size 11.5 foot. So if you can see here on the pedal, when my foot is right at the top, okay, here's the pedal stop. My foot is right at the top, a little bit is hanging off the back. And so a lot of people think that in order to do the heel-toe technique, you need to hit the heel and do this. So you have to have longboard pedals. I purposely didn't use longboard pedals for this demonstration because I wanted you guys to see that that's not the case. You don't need longboard pedals. And I have a size 11.5 foot, which is probably pretty average for guys, or maybe above average. But it doesn't matter. I can still perform the heel-toe technique. Here we go. So like I said, I'm a size 11.5 foot, which is average or a little bit above average, and I can easily play the technique. It's no problem. And that's because it's more of a toe-toe technique, and it's about learning the motion, and then once you know the motion, you can pretty much play it. Now, even if I move my foot down, now watch this. I'm only using this much of the pedal. Okay? My foot. Now I'm going to still play the technique. Okay, so foot size doesn't matter. Even if you had size 15 feet there and your foot was hanging way off the back of the footboard, it wouldn't really matter. The next thing I want to talk about, I'm going to do a little bit of a unique demonstration here, is I want to talk about footwear. And kind of, we're going to meld in some of the foot size stuff in here. Basically, I'm going to rotate between a bunch of different types of footwear. I'm going to rotate between snowboard boots, work boots, like big cat heavy work boots, a pair of size 13, these 13 Velcro shoes, they're huge, and golf shoes, and then these shoes as well. Just to kind of give you guys a demo, have a little fun, and show you that it doesn't really matter what type of footwear you have. You guys can play this technique. So here we go. We're going to start off with just regular shoes. These shoes are brand new, just got them yesterday. They're not totally broken in. They're relatively stiff still, so some would say that they couldn't play the technique with these shoes. However, footwear, like I said, isn't a big issue. You can play it with any types of shoes. Next, we have golf shoes. Now you might hear a little bit more grind on the pedal because of the plastic spikes on the bottom, but as you can see, the technique is still played fine. You're still getting a quick double stroke. There is nothing wrong. Now we're going to jump to a real ugly pair of shoes that I had to buy, and they're size 13, okay, 13, and they're not pretty to look at, but I really wanted to demo for you guys that it really doesn't matter what your shoe size. You can play this technique. Next, we have a pair of cat work boots. Now these are extremely old, probably 5 to 7 years old, and they're dirty, they're nasty. They go up high on the ankles. I've tied them tight just to kind of give you guys a demo and show you that it really doesn't matter what type of footwear you have. You can play this technique. And finally, we're going to jump to a pair of snowboard boots. Now these are very, very stiff. They're designed to protect your ankles and everything like that. So normally people would think that this would be a problem, but like I've always said, footwear is not a big issue with the heel-toe technique. It's about memorizing the motion and knowing your pedal and stuff like that. Alright, so I hope I proved my point there. Footwear doesn't really make a big difference. You can play in gum boots if you want.